Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Matt Novak. Alongside me, as always, my co-host, Grant Hawker.
What's up?
And join us on the third mic tonight, no pun intended, is our good buddy, Mike Connor.
How's it going, everybody?
Gentlemen, we have a lot to dive into tonight. We have one of the worst. I think we had a crazy week with interceptions in week 10. Just a crazy week. There was multiple games where 5 or more interceptions were thrown. But I know you guys were watching at least the on tickers and stuff like that on Sunday.
Yeah.
Dude, Jared Goff throws 5 picks, and somehow these Lions find a way to come back in this game and beat the Texans after being down, what was it, 23-7?
At one point.
Yep.
And in the second half, come back from that deficit to win this game. It was ridiculous. Just watching the stupidity of this game. It was throw a pick, get the ball back, throw a pick at one point. Neither quarterback had it going like pretty much at all.
I mean, 7 total interceptions in this game.
7 total. Stroud threw 2 as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was watching a few different games, and there was multiple games where we had 5 interceptions. I believe that was also the Colts game this week had 5 interceptions. There was 1 or 2 others. It was so many. It was literally so many. I've been trying to find an all-time stat to see what's the most interceptions thrown in a week. Because I feel like we had to have flirted with it this week.
Maybe we can try and find it. Maybe we can try and find it. I mean,
okay. Well, we'll search it throughout the night, but that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
This was a good football team having a bad first half and then being a good football team in the second half. Talk about adjustments. Gave up 3 points in the second half of this game. Loved what I saw from the coaching end of things, that there was just no panic.
Right.
How do you not panic when you throw 5 interceptions? I remember watching Tony Romo back in the day throw 4 in the first half. And the announcers, everybody, death sentence.
I mean, Russell Wilson, NFC Championship against Packers, threw 4.
Fair.
It's usually, I mean, if you throw more than 2, you're usually not winning. Like, that's just how it goes. You just look at statistics, stuff like that. But what I will say, if you are an NFC team that is potentially going to be playing this Lions in the playoffs, you need to look at all the tape, and look at everything that they did to make Goff uncomfortable, because what we talked about a few weeks ago is like, this guy has been able to do anything that he wants, going perfect in a game on Monday Night Football against Seahawks, being almost near, at least 150 or higher in a passer rating. The absolutely like insane run that he went on for like 4 weeks, where like he wasn't even being really talked about that much, where he's been able to just kill you on the play action pass. And so if you're the Packers, if you are the 49ers, if you are any of these playoff teams or vying for playoff spots, or you have them coming up in your schedule, you need to look and see what DeMeco Ryans did to make him so uncomfortable, but then obviously find a way to like finish the game out and close it out, which maybe a better team could have.
I mean, yeah, when you watch the blitz packages that Houston was throwing at him, which, Ryans is absolutely known for letting his defensive line go after a quarterback.
Yeah.
But the kind of interesting blitzes that he threw at the multiple levels, really great coverage across the board.
Yeah.
And it just getting Goff to rush throws while they were disguising that coverage was really key in that. They were getting the pressure and then getting him to go, oh no, I got to get rid of the ball. And, they love to do that, where they, like a lot of people do right now, where that too high safety, sure, from the corners on the outside and the close, and try and get that quick pressure from the defensive line and linebackers blitzing to get that ball out as fast as humanly possible. And that was pretty brilliant. But I agree. Watch all the tape, because I'm generalizing what was a great defensive scheme that worked basically flawlessly in the first half.
Yeah.
And was incredible to watch. I know I know we want to talk about Houston at some point, but I do want to hit some big things that happened this week in regards to quarterbacks. We've been preaching forever that Danny Dimes needs to lose a starting job in New York.
I have become the Daniel Jones hater. Everything I keep saying, I'm the one that said that I'd rather him than Jarrett Stidham. I complained about him going to Germany last week. This guy needs to be done, and he probably is.
The I mean, really, like what's going to happen, I think, is also it's not just him. I don't know that they institutionally believe in Dable either. Um,
Yeah,
you got to ask all the big questions right now. And when you're saying, "Hey, let's start Drew Lock next week," your job is definitely on the line.
sure.
Like definitely.
Well, and the Giants don't cut people mid-year, right? That is like the owner has come out in the past and say like we just don't cut coaches like mid-year. They
Right.
wait until the end of the year. Like that's just what they do. And losing to the Panthers, I think if he was going to get fired, it would have been like yesterday. Like it would have been like Tuesday or whatever.
That's what happened with Robert
Um,
Saleh. He was gone after the international
yeah.
game. Yep.
Yeah.
Losing to the Panthers is like you might be done.
Well, I mean, that already got one coach fired this year. So,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think that it'll be interesting to follow that, see what happens with Dable. In doing my research, going back to the interceptions thing really quick, just found a funny one. The Detroit Lions have thrown the most intercepted passes by a team for a single week of the season. So in week 10, in the week 10 of the NFL season, they have thrown a total of 142 interceptions as a team. Just
Okay.
for 1 week. That's just funny. I just found that one.
All right. So never bet on the Lions in week 10 in the NFL.
Or 9, or 2, or 11.
That's where they throw a lot of
Week
picks.
2, they've thrown 135 touchdowns all time. They are one behind the Cardinals for their week 11 performances with 136. Dude, this is a great
Whoever made these stats has way too much time on their hands.
stat
So
muse.
I'm gonna go on. I'm just gonna look at every week how bad teams are. That's someone who has way too much time on their hands. But I mean, the last thing that I want to say about the Giants, as we like talk about it, is at every moment they have made the wrong choice. At every moment they've made the wrong choice. Like in the last half decade or so, right? You trade up to get Daniel Jones when you didn't need to in the first place, and then you shouldn't have drafted him anyway, right? And then on top of that, they go and they pay Daniel Jones all of this money after having an okay year, and then they let Saquon walk to go to a divisional opponent, and who, by the way, tonight, as we're recording this, just had like almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Eagles to secure their win. There has been like almost no right choice ever in any of their decision making, any of their processes. And so, like, I think like you got to look at. I think everyone's job needs to be in question. Like, yeah, I think Dable does because obviously, like, one coach of the year a few years ago, and that year where Daniel Jones played okay. But like he's got to be in question. GM, like I think the owner's got to look at just kind of gutting this entire thing and just committing to this rebuild and like really trying to because like none of these pieces you can't Neighbors. That's it. Neighbors and Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody else can go at this
Yeah.
point.
And really, I mean, if you watch the off-season show on them and you watch their GM and how he's made certain decisions and valued positions, who he's chosen to pay, who he's chosen to cut. They just cut a starting cornerback this last week that the 49ers signed to the practice squad. It really calls the question, like, is there even an institutional understanding of the direction that they're going? Because the one thing that I took away from watching that entire show, and I watch every minute of every episode, was they did not have an identity. Like, they did not know.
They got rid of their identity. They got rid of it. Like Saquon is the guy that you can make and build an identity around. The Eagles are doing that right now. And when the GM, I believe on that show, I think it was GM, maybe some high executive was like, if Saquon goes to the Eagles, I'm going to be sick. How about pay him? How about sign him? So then you don't have, that doesn't have to be a conversation you have. Right. So yeah, If you're a Giants fan, sucks to be you, like for real. Like
Yeah.
it really does. And you also just lost to the Panthers in Germany. Bryce Young led Panthers. Yikes.
The other dude that did lose his job this week, needed to lose his job. See ya, Shane Waldron.
Bye
Uh, the
bye.
the Bears fan base in particular gets what they wanted. This team had not scored a touchdown in 22 straight drives after this last week. 22 straight. Horrendous,
Yeah.
horrendous job that he was doing. If you're watching games and the basic formations and the simplistic manner in which a lot of the route trees are running, which has been highly criticized,
So bad.
you could predict the play. I mean, literally, you knew what they were going to do.
Well, it's a
You know,
50-50 shot. It was going to be this, and if it wasn't that, it was the other one. Like it's
it,
two. There was two or three.
and yeah, and we're not saying like, oh yeah, it's a runner or pass. We're literally saying like it was such a small variation of plays. It's almost like he legit did not trust Caleb Williams to understand anything like
Yep.
that on an NFL level as far as the playbook's
Yep.
concerned. But they make the move after that offense had fallen to I think it was 30th overall ranking on DVOA. It was a 31st in yards, total offensive yards, which, for a team that was hovering at 500 there, pretty stinking pathetic.
Yeah.
You were not taking any pressure off of what has been a pretty decent defense. Had some really good games this year.
They're playing well.
Yeah. And so I'm super glad if for all the Bears fans, because that just needed to happen.
He's so
by
bad.
the,
Shane
by the
Waldron's
way,
terrible at his job. He shouldn't have a job calling plays again.
no,
I think you'd
absolutely.
be happy about that one.
Mm-hmm.
I was also going to say, you guys know that was the 8th staff member that Eberflus has fired since the beginning of last year.
He's got to be next, right? Like, how many more chances is he going to get? Like, if they don't make the playoffs, he's probably gone, right?
I mean, usually you get the second season with a rookie quarterback. Usually.
Yeah, but
Not always, but usually.
But also, like, Justin Fields was completely underutilized even last year with Pittsburgh, not Pittsburgh, with Chicago. He played well in those like 6 games he played, in Pittsburgh, played much better in those 6 games he ever played with Chicago. This would be his 3rd season. Part of me just wonders, like, man, like you got Caleb, you've got the rookie contract. Do you try and, pivot now when you're not really convinced at what he's doing because he hasn't shown anything, even with some like guys that have been around for a while in the Justin Fields and things like that? I don't know. I think if you're Ryan Poles, you want to try and keep your job, and I think part of the reason you do that or how you do that is probably by letting Eberflus go.
I can't disagree. It seems like a logical move. It seems like something that you got to do to shake up this the lack of momentum. We've been again a big fan of Ryan, the GM there, and like I just think you got to shake it. Like you just have to shake it up and do something different. Interestingly enough, Mike was putting our rundown together today, and you said this, Mike, and I think a lot of people would agree with this perspective. Switching over to the game we were talking about earlier in regards to not Detroit, but Houston. What has happened to Houston this year? And I sat there, I thought about it. I'm like, well, I get that Mike's bringing that up. And they've lost maybe a game or two when they shouldn't have, this one in particular. But like they're 6-4, they're still in the division lead because the Colts and the Titans and the Jaguars suck right now, for sure, especially the Titans and the Jaguars. And so I thought it was interesting that you brought it up, but then I went and looked into their stats a little bit, and this one really stood out to me. They scored 224 points in their 10 games, so they're averaging 22.4, but they're giving up 22.6. They've allowed 226 points, and that to me is a big flip when you look at the identity of that team. Yes, they were at this time last year, they were actually averaging 25.5, I believe is what it was. And they were only surrendering 17.8. So you've seen this flip of both the offensive defense, a little less scoring. There's a little tape on Stroud at this point,
Yep.
but also that defensive identity that Ryans is known for and should be about isn't clicking right now with that team. I mean, I still think they take this division. I think we all agree on that. But it's interesting that they are struggling with their identity this year, with that lack of scoring, a little bit less, about a field goal on average a game, and then also just giving up, seemingly another touchdown, if you will, no extra point, but the touchdown per game. So I'm really curious as to what they do to make adjustments. Joe Mixon, clearly a huge reason for that offense clicking and doing well. Been out a couple games. We saw them lose, I think it was both of those games when he was out last time. They were both road games. This team is 4-1 at home, but they're 2-3 on the road. I mean, I don't know if you have a take that's different than that, Mike, but I get you bringing it up after I look at these numbers.
Well, I'm just watching this Houston team. I've seen them play a couple times this year. I've watched the highlights. They just don't seem to have the fire they did last year. And I don't know how else to explain it, right? There was something magical and like encompassing with that team last year where they were coming in confident and they knew they were going to win. And you see them up 23-6 or whatever it was against the Lions. And I mean, they're destroying the Lions. And then they lost, they pittered out. And the Lions scored like 20 unanswered points and win the game. And you're just like, this wouldn't have happened last year, right? Like whether it's the defense stepping up but there's like a fire that's missing. And that's just what I'm kind of worried about. Like what is that key ingredient that's missing? Like what is that surge that I used to, because they were running around the field taking people's heads off on defense last year, and they just don't seem to have that energy, that
And
fire, that drive.
well, Stroud, I think, had 6 comeback wins last year.
Yeah.
And here they couldn't get it done offensively against the Jets, who were doing terrible on Halloween. Didn't get that one done, and then get up in this game. Defense can't hold off the Lions, even though they've made all those plays. They do have the opportunity to do some get right. So let me run you guys through their next 3 games. They got the Cowboys this week. They've got the Jaguars the week after, though I believe that one is in Clown Town. And that's always terrifying for some reason for that division. Don't understand it.
It's a haunted house over there, dude.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. It's the Cowboys, then the Texans, or then the Titans, then the Jaguars. So my bad. I did that in the wrong order. But they got the Cowboys on Monday Night Football this next week. That should be a get right game. The Cowboys suck. I mean, they just suck right now. They're terrible.
Oh, we love
Dak just announced, this week that he's out for the season with that hamstring. It was as bad as we read last week. We mentioned on the show, because there was speculation that his hamstring was unattached from the bone. That seems to have been validated and correct. That's what's going to hold him out, is they literally had to suture that back on, basically. That stuff grosses me out, and Grant's going to pass out in a second. But legit, the Cowboys are just terrible. We know the Titans are terrible. The Jaguars probably don't have Lawrence probably for the rest of the year. I mean, why would you play him?
Why would you?
I mean, I get that they're going to try and team morale it and crud like they did last year. I don't think they're going to rush him back like they did last season.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Jameson losing his mind talking about that. Just like, what are you doing? But no, they've got 3 get-right games. So this team's easily 9-4 if they can just play consistent football. Yep.
Because they have the late bye, right, at 14?
Correct. Yeah, they are off the week of December 8th. So they'll play those games. Then they've got the Dolphins, who should be playing better at that point. Then they've got a really difficult back-to-back in December. They are playing the Chiefs, and then I hate this one. on a Sunday, and then they have to turn around and host the Ravens on Christmas.
Ouch.
Does not bode well for them. They do have a cleanup game at the end of the year against the Titans. So this is a 10-win team just on playing those winning the division games and against the Cowboys at this point.
Yeah.
This division's winnable at 10-7.
Yeah.
And we talked about it last week. We all expect Texans to still take this division. It's just unless they do win these next three, if they stumble, even against the Jaguars, I think that team's going to be questioning themselves, even come back from the bye. And I don't know if they're going to make the playoff run we all expected them to at the beginning of the year. We expected this team to take another step forward. Yeah. There were people that had this team competing for a championship.
Yeah, we had them. Right? I had them the AFC Championship. I think that was my prediction.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're that team right now. Now, can they get right? That's that last. Can they get it together? I think they can. I think you're right. If they win these next three games, they come out and they ball out and they feel comfortable going into the bye, being like, we're on top of the world. And they come out and they at least compete against the Chiefs and Ravens. Maybe they win one. Like, I wouldn't put them past them if they're playing full heart, full go with the fire they had last year. They can beat the Chiefs this year. The Chiefs are gettable. I mean, they're undefeated. They're winning by like an average of 2 points a game or something like that. It's so crazy.
This is getting so old.
Dude, like I texted
like they're gettable.
What like black magic did they conjure up at the beginning of the season for the ball to bounce their way every time in every situation?
Every time.
Like they're sacrificing babies. I don't know what they're doing. Like, but they gotta like someone's gotta like, be like the little hobbits and take out, the big bad Sauron over here. Like, what the heck?
I mean, for the non-nerds, that's a big deal. So
who's gonna kill Goliath? Who's gonna kill Goliath?
Let's go biblical. Legit, like, look, I was looking at their schedule as well going into the Chiefs, and we're gonna bring up schedule at this point every week because it really does impact the outlook in terms of playoffs for all of these teams. They do have to travel this week to Buffalo. To me, I know that's in our pick'em. That's a game of the week. Circle that one on the calendar. Watch that Sunday afternoon. That's going to be an incredible game. I think the Bills can definitely get them the way they're playing. Amari Cooper expected to be back for that game and be right for that game. Then the Chiefs, unfortunately, get to play the Panthers and the Raiders in back-to-back games. And guys, like looking down the line here, I mean, the Broncos just proved to be a tough test for them. They actually have the Broncos last game of the season. Going backwards from that on Christmas Day, Chiefs are playing at Pittsburgh. That's a tough one. They are the week before is that Texans game that we already mentioned. Hopefully Texans gets right, and that's a tough one. They're playing the Browns on December 15th. That's a murder just waiting to happen. And then they're going to play the Chargers, who are playing tough right now. And definitely playing their best ball right now. Just got back. Quentin Johnson caught a touchdown on Sunday. If that dude's catching balls, their offense is going to at least produce enough for them to win games. That defense is getting right. It's getting Harbaugh right. But I do. There's a couple of games. If you really look at this, let's say they lose to the Bills. That's first loss this Sunday. They're not losing to the Panthers. They're not losing to the Raiders. I owe 40% chance they lose to the Chargers. And they're not going to lose to the Browns. 20% chance they lose to the Texans. Don't love, at least right now with the outlook. Steelers and Broncos, maybe. In both of those scenarios, they're playing at Denver in that last game, and that game's probably not going to matter as far as the playoffs is concerned. So 1, 2, I like them for 3 losses on the season.
14-3.
Yeah.
And
that
that's
makes
a maybe.
sense.
And that's I mean, I think
and that's a maybe the way they're playing.
I think definitely this game they have this week is the hardest they'll face. Toughest team they'll face for sure.
The Steelers too. If the Steelers are pushing for that 2 spot, and try to beat the Ravens out at the end of the season.
Yeah,
for sure.
Which again, that's also in our pick'em. There's some implications there too. Maybe how that one will shape up. But like I still think that this is a team and this is a team that won the Super Bowl last year, but the Raiders smacked them in late December. Absolutely smacked them. Like I absolutely think that like they could lose to a Broncos or a Raiders this year. And there's no indictment on this team. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl doing that. So I definitely think like every team is going to lose a game they shouldn't. Every team. Like that's just the way this is now. There's no perfect team. Like I mean, they might be the closest to.
Somebody needs to tell them that, though.
Yeah, no, for real.
Well, I think part of the problem though is that they are winning the games that it feels like they shouldn't. Like they're the team that seems to be winning.
And they're winning.
You're watching these.
Yeah.
You're watching these games, and you're like, how? I think I've watched 3 games that I've just sat there and like, how did they just win this game?
The Bengals, the Bengals won.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just last week,
and like obviously last week,
Denver played it perfect. They played it perfect.
How do you?
And they get a blocked kick, right? It's like I was like, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh man, I
don't
know.
It's frustrating, but also it just means it makes it even more scary because they're like obviously we're not doubting the greatness of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid is a top, arguably 2 coach now ever. Like he's top 2 maybe ever. Patrick Mahomes is obviously the best we've seen in a long time. Well, I mean, it's him and Brady and maybe another one, but like they can win in any way. You need special teams play, they'll do it. If Patrick Mahomes at 3rd and 85, Patrick Mahomes will get there. If it's defense just stopping a 4th down, they'll get there. Like they've won it in every single type of way, and that's why they're so scary. And that's why, like, I mean, if I was to bet, yeah, they're winning the 3rd three-peat, first time ever. Like,
no, first three-peat ever. It's hard not to say that right now.
As much as the Lions
winning games,
as much as what the Lions did was impressive, them able to win despite Jared Goff throwing 5 picks, like that's impressive, and I think that's actually a good thing that it shows they can actually do that. Like I'm still not. I don't care who they're lining up against. I'm taking the Chiefs every time. Like in terms of like the Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
Like in terms of the Super Bowl, like I might have them losing this week to the Bills, but like overall, no, I'm not betting anything against the Chiefs. Not once, ever.
I was just looking at it. I mean, you brought up a difficult one for me because you said Andy Reid is in the conversation for, top 2 greatest coaches of all time.
Yeah.
And you think historically, somebody like Don Shula, most wins of all time, 328. Sure. I don't hold George Hollis up into that ranking in terms of his coaching. But I'm just not there with that.
We can have the conversation later. I've got my reasons for that, and I don't want to derail this, but I have some pretty strong reasons as to why I think that he's a top 3, maybe even the 2nd greatest coach of all time.
Well, I was just going to make the point though that Belichick is 3rd in wins with 302. Reid is 4th with 267.
Well, obviously Bills won. Like that's I'm not Bills won, and then I think it might be him. But yeah,
we can
have that later.
Sometimes it's a good conversation though because there's a lot of stats there to back that up. But I want to move on, I guess, to a couple other teams who have fallen back to earth a little bit. What we've been hoping the Chiefs would do. The Vikings and the Falcons. How do the Falcons lose that this week?
The Saints. So
how? Genuinely did not think that was happening this week. I was watching scores and I'm going, why? Saints get rid of their coach and it's one of those stupid. The interim comes in and you win it for him type thing.
Everyone is like, he's like, grabbing him on the sideline, like giving him shoulder checks and all that stuff. Are the Falcons just like not good? I don't know, man. Like,
I mean, the Honey Badger, by the way, is the one that sealed it. Just throwing that out there. But like,
random
dude pulling up.
I mean, they're so Jekyll and Hyde.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
they
and
really are.
that's it, right?
And like Jekyll
It's
and Hyde that's not sustainable. Like maybe you get a playoff game, maybe you get a playoff spot. But like Jekyll and Hyde, losing to the Saints, getting smoked by a team like the Seahawks, which are not very good right now, that are in their kind of rebuild. Um, but then beating the Bucks that were healthy, a healthy Bucks. Kirk
throwing
Cousins
for
throwing
like 550
500
yards or
yards. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, like
We're
popping
like,
off.
what?
Um, yeah, I mean you can't you can't like pick them for anything. You're not confident. If you're a fan, you're not confident in this.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you're wondering like where this comes from, like eh, get this, like looking at the numbers from this game, they should have won this. They had every offensive stat over
dude,
the
yeah,
Saints. 468 total yards. Even had 181 rushing.
yeah. Bijan had a
Um,
crazy game.
awesome game. They had 25 first downs. They went 5 for 14 though on third down.
Yikes.
And that's really where it weighs out because they had 73 total plays to 52, um, but they gave up third down sacks, 3 of them, and they threw an interception. Otherwise, every single stat in their favor. Gave up less penalties and yards. They held the time of possession monstrously by over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They did not allow the Saints to move the ball in the second half. They only gave up 3 points. They just couldn't score and done on third down. Kirk Cousins is a third down guy. That's where he wins football games. And so there was some just weirdness there, I guess. Also, his former team finally turning the ball over, and started doing that here with the Vikings. Have their Darnold had started out perfect for a little while in terms of not giving up the ball, and they seem to be coming back to earth, as I mentioned before.
The term
I
pumpkin watch, right? Is he turning back into a pumpkin
right,
after this Cinderella run?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, how much can you expect out of a backup, though?
yeah. I
That's what
mean,
Darnold is. He's a good backup.
yeah,
He's a
and
$10 million backup.
Yeah.
and flashed, right? People were talking about, maybe he finally found his spot. I mean, to be fair, I think that's a fair point because he was with the the Panthers, the Jets, like obviously not some notoriously well-run organizations. Um, but yeah, man, he's got to. If you want to be more than a backup, you got to play better. If you want to be considered more than that.
Well, and like you say, oh, they're still winning football games. I'll remind you, they beat the Jaguars on 4 field goals. They they beat the Colts, who have been playing like garbage, 21-13. And that was after back-to-back losses to the Rams, who played a very good football game against them at the end of October, and then the Lions. You could say whatever about that. It was a close game.
Yeah,
Uh, but there's a team that started out hot. I mean,
5-0.
destroyed the Giants in week 1, beat the Niners in week 2, took down the Texans, obliterated the Texans 34-7, their
Yeah.
worst loss of the year. Won divisional game, beat Aaron Rodgers. They came out really hot and were just playing good ball. And then all of a sudden, they can't score points the last 3 weeks. Scored 20 against the Rams, who have a gettable defense. 21 against the Colts, who definitely have a gettable defense right now, and then just 12 against Clown Town.
Yeah,
Don't love where it's trending. They do have the opportunity for a get right this week, playing the Titans. Obviously, we're even without being Tennessee, but they need to show us something on the offensive side of the ball. And if they want to win late here, that schedule towards the end of the season gets brutal because their last game is the Lions, back up a week, the Packers, back up a week, the Seahawks on the road. I don't love that for them. They got the Bears, who we'll see what they are then, but then they also have the Falcons and the Cardinals at the beginning of December. Those last 4 out of 5 games, or sorry, 6 out of 7 games, going to be pretty brutal right at
yeah,
the end.
And they need to win some of those against other playoff contenders.
Yeah, you've got teams vying for spots. Falcons are going to be in it at the end. So you're going to need to win that game. The Packers are going to be competing, and that's it doesn't matter. It's divisional. We understand
Yeah.
how that works. I mean, we were all so excited, 2 years ago when the Lions won that game against the Packers.
Oh,
The
that was
last week
great.
of
It
the
sent the
season.
Seahawks to the playoffs, dude.
Yep. Well, I'm not great for that reason. But what happened when you guys made the playoffs?
I don't care.
Yeah. Uh, but, uh, but like, we just understand that's what that division does. They hate each other and they're going to do that stuff. So those are going to be really competitive games towards the end of the season. And they just got to score points, period. They got to figure it out. All those defenses they've got to face going from November 24th to the end of the season, January 5th, are tough. Yeah. Those are all top 12, top 13 defenses. It's that upper echelon of the defenses. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if a backup quarterback's going to get it done that late in the year, and they have zero depth behind him. So,
well, that too, and it's just like he's never been in these spots, right?
Sure.
Like playing for these bad teams, they're never fighting for a playoff spot, in December. So like it's all going to be brand new to him. So,
yeah, I mean, right now
a little bit. Oh, sorry. To bring it back a little bit though, is you say they kind of have a get right game this last week, or this week. I thought last week should have been kind of a get right game.
Sure.
Like they're playing the Jaguars without Trevor Lawrence against a defense that's like ranked 26th or something like that. Like you're like, this should have been a game. They scored 28 points to the Jaguars 7 and walked away in the fourth quarter with just handed over to Jacobs the whole time. Like that should have been what this game was, and it was not. Like they had to scrap right until the end.
If both of you had to put a number on it right now, what's the percentage chance that you think the Falcons and the Vikings get to make the playoffs?
Both teams?
Yeah.
I think it's about 50% right now.
Well, okay, individually. My bad. Individually, give me the Falcons' chances percentage wise.
Falcons, I think, is probably like 75. I just think that because of the division, like they'll get in as the division winner.
Because they beat Tampa Bay twice.
Because they already beat Tampa Bay twice. So like
that's the difference right
Tampa Bay has to get like they can be tied record wise, but they'll have a tiebreaker, so it doesn't matter. So they'd have to be like games better than them. I mean, so I jumped that to 85, 90%. Like, unless Kirk Cousins gets injured, and Penix, is terrible, for
the Vikings. Because that's a wild card spot. The Lions are running away with it.
Well, yeah, and that's why I have a hard time because I think
that's so hard.
Maybe even sub 50, because I might take Packers. It'd be Lions, then Packers. Like, I mean, so that means they'd have to squeeze in what, the 7th seed?
Yeah, because you'd have to beat out like the Cardinals at this point, right? Like, and they play head
actually,
to head.
I might take the
like,
I would take them over the Cardinals, and we will get into some Cardinals takes here in a second, but maybe like 55%. 55.
I got it more like 45. I've got it below 50, I think, for the Vikings at this point. I think you were right about that last 6 out of 7 games. They're going to lose like 3 of them and probably be on the edge with like the Cardinals for that last spot. Or if I want to make my predictions from earlier and they're correct, might even be with the 49ers right there at the last spot. So, and then they beat the Niners and they could beat the Cardinals and maybe they get in. But the way they've been playing, I have a hard time putting the Vikings in, even though they have a really good chance just based off how they started. I'll just leave it at that.
By the way, 49ers Cardinals the season definitely could be for the NFC West, and getting into that, are the Cardinals for real right now? They are sitting at 6-4. They have a win against the 49ers in that crazy ending game. And they have the leg up. They're going to the bye this week. So the Niners playing the Seahawks this weekend have the opportunity to tie them for record, but obviously not going to pass them because of the head-to-head. But do we feel like the Cardinals are for real? This is a team that has scored 238 points, most in their division. They have outscored, I think, I want to say, I'm going to go look at it and make sure. They've only not outscored, I believe, three teams in the NFC. That would be the Lions, Eagles, Commanders, who played today, and we've already got their numbers figured into that. But you know, but they have played same amount of games as most of those teams. So just looking at that, like their offense seems to be legit. Their defense is giving up some points, but is playing consistent right now. Do you guys think they have the depth to really be for real?
Mike, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I can jump in. I think they have beat the teams they are supposed to have beat. Like at the beginning of the year, we wouldn't have said they should have beaten some of these teams, right? But to prove that they're contenders or at least they're going to compete for a playoff spot, they've beat the teams they should have, right? Like the lower teams um, that that you want the easier games, they're winning and they're competing in every game. I'll just leave it. That's the way I'll say it. I mean, they crushed the Rams in week 2, and so that helps them. They've beat the Niners on that comeback. That also helps them in the division. It's, I mean, they were a touchdown away from the Lions, who's like the cream of the crop, right? I mean, that was a one-score game. Just going through, I mean, they got crushed by the Commanders, but Commanders can do that to anybody, it seems like, from week to week, the way they've been playing. And then they have a bad week and they have a good week. It's just Commanders are another team. But I don't know. They're really competing against decent teams and winning. Like they beat the Chargers, and we're talking about the Chargers starting to get right. And that was just a couple weeks ago. So I think against all odds, and the way everybody predicted them to be the bottom of this division at the beginning of the year, and then not just us, I'm like across the board, right? The NFL is like, the Cardinals are rebuilding, and we'll see what they are. I think these guys are competing not just for a playoff spot; they might be competing for the NFC West at the end of this year, just because of the games they've already won and the way they're just playing. Like they're getting up in people's grill and like really playing hard games. And I just didn't expect that from them this year. So I think that they are truly a competitive team right now. Not necessarily, don't get me wrong, I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but they are competing. They're going to get in the playoffs, and they could beat somebody in the playoffs. That's where they're at.
So, if I'm wrong on this, I'll eat crow. I don't care. No, no, I I don't think they're for real at all. You want to know why? Because, dude, they've beat the Jets, the Bears. They beat the Dolphins with like out Tua by like 1 point. They beat the Chargers by 1 point. They got smoked by the Packers. They got demolished by the Commanders. Like none of the teams that they have really beat am I impressed with they have no impressive win. Because the Rams just threw out a pitiful performance against the Dolphins. Okay? Like they did. Like they played terrible.
They did.
Like they like the Rams just played awful. Um and that's even the words of Jameson, in which like the most pitiful offensive performance he's seen. Like he like
He's
texted
never
that
seen,
in.
yeah.
Yeah. Like that was bad. But like, dude, the Cardinals like haven't like they don't have an impressive win on them. They beat the Chargers by 1. They beat the Dolphins by 1. Like
They beat the Niners by 1,
and the Niners by 1. Like
and that was a collapse game. Yeah.
yeah. Like I don't think they're winning against the Niners again. Like that's not happening. Like yeah, they still what's on their side is that they still have to play the Patriots and the Panthers.
And to be fair, Grant can remove his fan hat, and he knows this. They've got the Seahawks 2 out of their next 3 games.
Yeah.
If the Seahawks don't make some changes here post bye,
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying if the Seahawks don't make changes post their bye,
right, which is coming out of.
Yeah, which been real interesting. I was going to ask you about this in a moment. What you guys just did with your linebacking core, but if they don't get right, and the Cardinals can beat the Seahawks in those 2 games. Let's just say they lose to the Vikings. The rest of the season is the Patriots, the Panthers, the Rams. And then they've got that ending game against the 49ers.
So when the question we post here is, are they for real? Do I think they maybe can make the playoffs just because of what they've done so far? Yeah, but I think they're getting dumped week one, the first week. Like, I don't have any confidence in this team whatsoever to like do anything or be impressive. Like,
Fair.
yes, they've scored points on offense, but like, what are they doing well? They're not even using Marvin Harrison that well. He's got sub 500 yards, and we're over halfway through the season now. James Conner's playing
McBride's
great.
a stud.
What's that?
McBride's a stud.
McBride's great, and James Conner's playing real well.
Yep.
Really glad I picked him up as a late fantasy pickup, by the way. But um, like Kyler Murray has been that impressive. Like he's been clutch in moments where they needed it. But like I look at this team and I'm like, dude, like what is their identity? And maybe because I don't watch a lot of Cardinals games, maybe I'm a little stupid in saying that. But hey, I'll admit when I'm stupid. I'm stupid half time on this stupid show. All right. But like they don't have anything impressive to me. Like there's nothing. Like they haven't come out here and like shown up on a good team. They barely squeak by on these good teams and absolutely dominate the Bears and the Jets, who are pitiful. Like
I'm going to push back on you. Okay, they
so
won one score game against the Bills that they lost. One score game against the Lions that they lost. Like they're competing in these games against the good teams.
but you got to
That was
get one of
kind
them.
of my point.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But
I mean,
you got to get
no,
you got
those
to
are
get you got to get something though.
those are two of the best teams in the NFL right now, Bills and Lions, and they lost by a total of 11 points. Like you're
But
or 13 points.
most
So like
most
it's
games are won. But
that's
I mean,
close.
I mean, yeah, but like a lot of teams, even though like bad teams, like most games are won by a margin of like less than a touchdown. Like even
Yeah,
the
but to
bad
push
teams,
back on you a little bit is they beat the Jets 31-6,
the
and they
Jets are
beat the Bears
poo.
29 to. They're supposed, but that's the thing is they're beating bad teams by a lot, and they're losing. The games they've lost were very. Besides the Packers in one bad week, they've competed. They got the Packers and Commanders that they've competed against everyone else or destroyed everyone else. So
Yeah, I
I
get that,
say
but
that they're competing.
I feel like if for me to consider them for real, um, I feel like they need to have one of those losses be wins, if that makes sense. Like that's where that's where I'm leaning. Is it's like dude, they should have been able to get the Lions, in that game because the Lions didn't play
It
well
was
that game.
close.
And,
Yeah,
like it was a close game, but like if they had won that game, honestly, I'm thinking way different. Because for one, now they're 7-3 for one, and the 7-3 and six
yeah.
and four is very different in my opinion. Because there's a lot of
Sure.
teams hovering around there. Um, but like I go like yeah, and then I come in like dude, and they were close against the Bills, didn't get it done. But in week two, they were able to bounce back and beat the Lions, who we think the Lions are the best team in the NFC and maybe a top two, three team in the NFL. Period.
Yep.
And so I just think that if they were able to get one of those games, I'd actually believe them to get it done. Like, because at the end of the day, like, yes, playing these teams hard is kind of impressive, but in the NFL, it's wins and losses, and they haven't got they didn't get it done. This isn't like college where you kind of weight the wins and the losses of like they didn't lose by this much, they won by this much. It's did you win or did you lose? Did you score more points than the team? And against a couple of these teams where it was close, they couldn't get it done, and so that's why I don't believe that they can because there's been nothing else for me to prove that like, dude, they're able to get that win on that team, and that means something.
I'll push back on the Kyler Murray portion of it. 69.2% completion rate. He's at about 2,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions on the year.
Oh, I don't know that.
And so I love the ratio. Don't
Yeah.
love necessarily. He needs a little more production. I agree. Like they need to figure out how to use their wide receivers and score more touchdowns overall. But Connor, as you pointed out, having a good year, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. McBride already with 50 catches in those 10 games, 550 yards, just a little bit less in terms of the overall yards than DK, by the way, just as a comparison.
Hey, he's been out 2 weeks. He's been out 2 weeks.
That's fair. So there's that. But I think that the offensive efficiency is there for them. My concern for them and making a case against them, and I said it in the question, do they have the depth? I don't think they have the depth.
Yeah,
they lose a guy
Yeah.
at any spot.
You lose Marvin Harrison for 3 weeks. Who else is
Dortch.
there?
Dortch is your guy.
Dortch.
Right.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
You lose McBride, and I can't name the backup tight end. You lose Connor. I don't know who's running the ball.
Yep.
Like it's that kind of situation.
They're just like this. They're like teetering on the edge. Like that's what I feel like this team is. It's right. They're like this is a team that like, dude, if they made a trade, like a good trade in the trade deadline, to go get, dude, if they went and got like a Mike Williams, if they went and got, a this, that, or the other piece, because like they're just teetering on the edge where I feel like they could, if one thing goes wrong, they could just plummet and win 2 games the rest of the season. Like that's the type of team I feel like that's how confident I am. And there's teams I guess I don't feel confident, right? Where like they could absolutely just plummet if something goes wrong, but everything seems to be working right in this exact moment, and I don't think that's a sustainable way to win games.
Well, right before you pick them in the NFC West, the 49ers do play the Seahawks this week. They're not on our pick 'em, but they are always a big topic of conversation for this podcast. Grant, your team is coming off a bye, and I
Yeah.
mentioned you guys made a change up at the linebacker spot.
Yeah.
Why the change now? I mean, I know that the linebackers have not been what you guys wanted, but it seemed like you let go of a veteran this week who was at least playing consistently.
He was our play caller. He was the one that had the mic. He was the one handing all the plays to everybody. And he's gone. And there's a lot I could say. A lot of stuff that a lot of people on this podcast or listening wouldn't know, certain players. But what I will say is that Mike Macdonald, a lot of the moves that he has made mid-season to make changes for this team have worked and have been better. He was not happy with our interior D-line play with Mike Morris and Miles Adams. So he made a trade and got Roy Robertson from the Jaguars, and that production's been better. He was not happy with the way Jerome Baker, our linebacker, is playing. So we went and traded him for Ernest Jones from the Titans. And that's been better. We had Rayshawn Jenkins, safety, wasn't playing too great. So we brought in Kobe Bryant instead, who, by the way, we drafted a few years ago and was corner, now turned safety. And that he's been better. And so like he's made moves that have been like objectively, there's been more production out of those players than past ones when he's moved on from them. And so while I don't love the optics, I don't love the doing that. I also think this is a standard that I was actually even calling for when they were on their 3-game skid, where they were like, guys aren't playing well, like have tryouts for your guys. And Terrell Dawson had some good plays, good moments, but like bro couldn't be consistent and wasn't hitting it in the gaps where he was supposed to be. And so I think they're going to use Tyrese Knight, who's a rookie we drafted in the 4th round this year. Like he's gonna slot in that spot, and Ernest Jones. And so like, yeah, I don't love it, but I think at this point, like I think everyone's kind of recognizing what this season is, and it's like let Mike Macdonald do his scheme, like let him figure his stuff out. And so yeah, I'm for it. I mean, again, I don't love the signal it sends when the 2 linebackers you spent money on this offseason, which again were like these kind of stopgap guys. Like they weren't long-term answers. Neither of them were. They were, those are the margins on the margins of, what you paid for. But like cutting both of them, before we even hit, really halfway through November, like both of those guys you paid, like don't love that, like what's the, I mean, you've already paid them. Like, what's the point? Just at least keep them on the team, so you at least have some more depth there. If you want to have other guys start over them, go for it. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to trust Mike Macdonald that every move he's made to get better, even in the margins, has worked, and has been market improvement with those guys. So on the defensive side, I'll say, which is where he has his hands in. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. At this point, I'm just like, whatever. We're playing with house money a little bit. So,
and it's a you got to get better type thing. Do you really lose anything by making that change when you've got 10, 11 days to do an install with a different play caller? They clearly move on from him because you don't want voices trying to lead the defense. And he was asked, as you said, to make the calls on the field, and they're going to turn over leadership.
Well, and I think I think Ernest Jones was already doing that last week or 2 weeks ago when they had him in.
Okay.
So he's familiar with Mike Macdonald's scheme because with the Titans, one of their defensive coordinator was an assistant coach for the Ravens last year. So he's really familiar with that. So I think that's part of it. So,
but either way, can't feel good about doing that right now when you've got to go up against your divisional rival, the 49ers, and the offensive scheme that's coming at you that destroys the middle of the field for defenses.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tough ask of that linebacking core who's just now going to try
I mean,
and
it's
come
two new
together.
guys within the next 3 weeks. It's Ernest Jones and then Tyrese Knight
Right.
to come in and play that middle linebacker spot. But what I'll say too is like the linebacker spot is what Mike McDonald knows best. That's what he played. And that's what he knows best. Like, so what he sees with linebackers, I'm gonna trust. I'm gonna just be like, hey man, this is a spot this is a spot you know best, and you know how it needs to play, and you know that if it's not playing up to what you want, then you're gonna bring in someone who will. Um, so yeah, there's a little bit of trust there, but also whatever, man. Something's got to change. You know,
Whatever.
I mean, something's got to change. You got to figure something out, and if that's what it takes, then okay, I'm here for that.
Yeah. Well, and on the other side of the field, the 49ers squeaking a win out after Jake Moody missing 3 field goals in one game, but he redeems himself on the last play of the
All
game
is
with
made
the game
right.
tied 2020 yet and drops one just inside the uprights to get the win for the Niners. They've won 2 in a row coming into this game. CMC over 100 scrimmage yards, did not run the ball real well.
Oh, looks like Matt was kind of cut out a little bit there.
You froze on us.
You kind
Oh,
of
did I cut out there for a second? Sorry.
yeah, for
Yeah, you
about
froze.
15
Yeah,
seconds
my
or so.
bad.
Oh, all right. I'm not sure what's happening here.
Fun.
Hello.
We haven't had that happen in a fat minute. I'll let Grant do the edit if he wants to. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back now.
But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what the 49ers are coming into this game. They've got to connect in the red zone. Just have not been able to score touchdowns in the red zone. This is a team that struggles with efficiency inside the 20 and getting it across the goal line. I'll be really curious to see what they dial up this week and just how many times they find pay dirt. We've got to, I mean, you can definitely get mad at a kicker for missing 3 kicks. 100% you can get mad at a kicker for missing 3 kicks. Also, what the crud you doing taking 6 kicks?
Yeah, it's the worst red zone they've had all year long.
Like, what
It's
do
the
you?
worst red zone efficiency.
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't be scoring 18 points off field goals. Not with that offense. And I understand Ayuk's out, but Purcell scored a touchdown this last week. Jawan Jennings had a good game. The CMC did a great job catching the ball. George Kittle with that fantastic play
Yep.
at the corner. Like, why are you not able to do that when you're inside the 20? I can give you one reason is stupid timing on offensive penalties. That's been awful. Also, they gave up 2 sacks in the red zone this last week. 2 of the 3 that Brock had on him were pretty bad. So, as a 49er fan, I am taking some good with the bad right now. Seeing some things happen that you were hoping for. Purcell getting his first touchdown after getting shot in August was pretty stinking awesome.
Yep.
That was really cool. Seeing George play the way that he's playing right now, he is the best tight end in the league right now. Like, I have no issue. Best tight end in the league right now. Kelsey is Kelsey. Don't get me wrong, but he's clearly lost a step when it comes to certain facets of his game. Still great at getting open when he needs to be open. He's got great hands, but he can't run anymore, and he doesn't block near as well as he used to. George is clearly at that peak point of his game at 30 years old. Just playing veteran ball. So that's been pretty cool, but they have got to get it done this week offensively. Brock can't throw 350 yards and you kick 6 field goals. That just cannot happen again. So be curious to see what the Seahawks try and do to stop them, but I know we need to get it, pick them, and wrap it up here in a minute. So Grant, take it away, buddy.
All right. So just an update. Matt, you and I are 36-14, and Jameson and Mike are 32-18. So that's fairly easy. To write that off. So we'll see how this works. But our first game in our pick'em has just completed. We're recording on Thursday, like we had said earlier. So I'll just read who we had picked. So Matt, you had picked the Commanders for this one. We sent this one in earlier, so you can make sure we got it in time. So Matt, you'd picked the Commanders. I picked the Eagles. Jameson picked the Commanders, and Mike picked the Eagles. So Mike and I get the dub there. good start for us. The best start you can have to
You
an
can
NFL
smile,
week.
Grant. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I am. I am a little bit.
Okay.
But we're gonna start from the top then for this one. So another good game. By the way, Matt didn't want to talk about it or skipped it,
Oh, I
but
did. Oh, that's my bad.
my boy, Russell Wilson showing up. Let's go. Let Russ
That
cook.
was a good game.
If
That
the
was a good game.
Seahawks were good, we wouldn't be talking about that. You realize that, right?
If the Seahawks, what?
If the Seahawks were good, we wouldn't have to talk about your boy.
You're my
Just
boy.
throwing it out
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But I'm gonna just take I'm taking dubs when I can, and that's one that I will relish in. So Matt, Ravens at the Steelers.
Yeah.
Two good teams, man. Let's at this point, super good
So,
team.
I mean, easy breakdown here for me is you got to go. You got to look at these are two of the top four defenses in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
But this is going to be painful for me, and I want you to hear me on this. Right now, the Steelers are playing out of their mind ball, and the Ravens have the most gettable secondary in the league.
Yeah.
They are number one in points surrendered in fantasy. They are number two in yards surrendered to receivers. They are, I believe it's number two most, yards to surrender to receivers. And I believe it is third or fourth in total touchdowns surrendered to the receiver position. George Pickens is playing good football.
Who's throwing him the ball? Who's also playing good football?
Russell Wilson is playing pretty decent football.
Oh, come on.
And, well, he is. He's playing pretty decent football. But no, I just think it's that Steeler defense gets it done. When TJ Watt's on the field, man, we've said it the entire time we've been doing this podcast. It's a game changer. It's a game wrecker, and I love that it's in Steel City. So that makes me feel a little better about picking them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. As much as I have loved this Russ thing, and the Steelers thing, this Ravens team has Derrick Henry, man. I think I got Derrick Henry, and Lamar is throwing the ball better than he has ever, maybe. Like as just a pocket passer. Like you just get rid of his running ability. This one's so tough. I think I'm gonna take the home team. I think that's
he talked himself into it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take the home team here. So we don't have Jameson's pick yet. We'll make sure to get those in there for this week. So Mike, it comes back to you.
Hey, see, I almost just want to go against you guys so I can try and catch up.
I don't. This isn't a bad game to do that.
No. It's like it's like the top offense against like the top defense, right? The Ravens have the highest scoring offense, and the Steelers have like the number two.
An
Points
unstoppable
allowed in the
force
league
meets
so
an
far.
immovable
Yeah.
object.
I am gonna go with the Ravens. I think Derrick Henry is gonna wear this Steelers defense down towards the end of the game. I think that's gonna be kind of the difference. I don't expect this to be a high scoring game at all. Steelers Ravens is almost never high scoring, right? And so I think that'll hold traditionally. I think the Ravens will come out in top of the division at the end of this game.
I will just remind you that the Ravens have lost the Browns and the Raiders this season.
Yeah, they have.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Gotcha. So next up, Mike, we'll stick with you. We've got the Falcons at the Broncos.
I really enjoy what the Falcons have been doing offensively. I mean, even last week, right? We were talking about it, but they still had a great offensive game. But the Broncos defense is a top in the league. And
we talked about last week, their front seven's so good. It's so underrated.
It's the team is so I just want to say, like, we're doing fantasy with my boys for the first time this year. They're 14 and 13. And my son a few weeks back, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks ago, he's like, I don't like my defense. And I sat him down and I was like, you should probably pick up the Broncos defense. It was sitting right there. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. every week he's like, my Broncos are scoring so good. This defense is legitimate, I think, and Bo Nix is doing just enough to keep competitive in games. I'm going to take this Broncos defense at home against the Falcons, coming off a tough loss. They played to the Chiefs down to the wire, should have won that game. Give me the Broncos at home against a Falcons team that I don't know who's going to show up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll piggyback off that. I'm going Broncos. Bro, the Falcons I can't believe in them when they lost to the Saints. Like, I just can't, dude. That Broncos defense is good. I mean, we've seen like decent defenses, like decent ones, like able to stop Kirk Cousins. Like the Seahawks defense isn't that great right now, but they like made Kirk Cousins' day, made him have a long day, having like 3 turnovers. Like, and this Broncos defense is probably better than that. And Bo Nix is playing really well. He is playing exactly the way that Sean Payton wants him to play. On time, in the pocket. Um, and so yeah, I'm going to the Broncos as well. Like I'm not picking the Falcons. They're Jekyll and Hyde. I want to get away from that as far away from that
Just
as
to
I
remind
can.
everybody, the Falcons have struggled rushing the quarterback this year.
Dude,
And
yeah,
we predicted
their pressure
Matt
rate
said
is some of
something
the
about it
lowest.
in the very first of the year. He was unsure about the Falcons winning this division. I think that's why you picked Tampa Bay, was because you were like, I don't know how the Falcons are actually going to get to the quarterback, and that was, I think it's proved to be legit in the
Yeah,
last
their
actually.
pressure rate is bottom 5. Like
Yeah,
they can't
it's
generate
not been
any
good.
pressure.
So that's
Yeah,
part of the reason I'm going with the Broncos. Go ahead, Matt.
yeah.
How dare you guys not trust Kirk Cousins?
Oh, this is a
How
Grant take right here.
how dare you come against that man with all of the drip that he wears on
Kirko chains.
Sundays? Okay, how dare you not think that this guy could throw for 500 yards this week, 4 touchdowns, and just light up a Broncos defense that, should have got it done this last week and didn't?
Oh,
How dare you
oh,
disrespect Kirk Cousins?
okay.
I'm kidding, dude. Screw that. The Broncos are winning this game. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm with you. Who knows who's going to show up? Let's
Yeah,
disrespect the crud out of them until they prove they're for real.
love it.
Prove it.
Love it. All right. I wrote Falcons. All right, you juked me. All right, Matt. So stick with you then. Chiefs at what did I do here? Chiefs at Bills.
Uh,
Going to Buffalo.
Bills.
Ooh, that's quick.
Bills. I'm confident. It has to happen. This is the best chance for it to happen.
Yeah.
And the Bills playing at home later in the year, always good for the Bills. And just genuinely, they're playing consistent ball. The Chiefs are not. They have gotten lucky time and time and time and time and time again. The football gods got to give one to somebody else. They just owe all of us this one. So
For our mental health,
for our mental health,
for our own sanity,
our well-being, the Bills are going to crush some tables and the Chiefs this weekend.
all right. See. Hmm. And Patrick we trust. And Patrick we trust. And Andy we trust. This is mainly as a way to try and take a step up against Matt here. Wait, no, I've already done that with the Eagles Commanders.
2 games on them. Oh, you're going safety now.
Stop, Mike. Now you're. All right, yeah, I'm doing it. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. Let's go. Get it done. They've won every way they can. That defense is legit. Yeah, I'm going Chiefs for all the reasons I said even earlier about why I won't bet against them.
Forget you, man.
All right, Mike.
There's a guy that's on radio quite often. He's a very loud mouth, and he's a big Chiefs fan, Mr. Nick Wright.
Uh-huh.
And I think I'm going to have to go with him
Mm-hmm.
on saying everyone should pick the Chiefs to win until they've lost 2 in a row. That's just the way it is. You should be picking the Chiefs to win every game until they've lost 2 in a row. And so
That is the most
Yeah,
Nick Wright thing to say ever.
No, I
don't
thought
pick a team against a team until they start losing games, guys.
Yeah, that's kind of a dumb.
It's true.
I thought you were gonna go. His take was at the beginning of the season was that they were gonna lose to the Bills, lose a game they shouldn't, and then lose it, or something like that. They're gonna be 14-3 or 15-2 or whatever.
I mean, I can go Chiefs or Bills. I'm trying to catch up to you guys here. I want the Bills to win. I think the Bills can win. I think Chiefs have magic. No, go ahead and put the Bills back on there. I'm taking the Bills. The Bills should win this game. The Broncos should have won last week. Like the Chiefs should have lost 4 or 5 games this year, and they haven't. But the Bills haven't not. I mean, I don't think has Allen ever beaten Mahomes. I don't know if he has.
I think in the regular season
once or something like that.
I think in the regular season they have.
Yeah, I know. Lock in the Bills. That's
all right, Bills. All right.
I talked myself into it.
All right. So to end with you, Mike, for our final game, we got Bengals at Chargers. 2 top 5 picks in the 2020 draft. 2020 draft. We got Joe Burrow against Justin Herbert. Zach Taylor versus Jim Harbaugh. Who you got?
I think this is a really good game. I think this is actually an excellent game. I almost passed over it when I was looking at setting some of these up today, and I just happened to see it. I think the Bengals are reeling from last week and going on the road to the Chargers defense that is better than the Ravens right now. I think I'm going Chargers at home against a high flying Bengals offense. Burrow's going to have a good game against this defense, but I think Chargers are going to come out in the end.
Gotcha.
I think they'll be able to run the ball.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying, but I'm gonna go. The Chargers have had a really hard time being dynamic on offense. Right, that's some of the Jim Harbaugh thing.
Yep.
It's the we're gonna run the ball, dominate O line.
Greg Roman's the offensive coordinator.
Oh yeah, and that. So they're not interesting. They're not dynamic. I think Lad McConkey. I think he's going to be a guy. Like I think he's shown flashes that he can be someone that they can actually rely on. But I think if the Bengals end up, I think the Bengals could score fast early, and then I don't know if the Chargers can keep up and chip away. Like the way they play,
that makes sense.
Is they have to play with the lead, running the ball, keeping the ball away from the opposing quarterback, opposing offense. And I think if the Bengals can get ahead early, which I think they can against anybody, like you can be a great defense, but Jamar Chase is there. Joe Burrow's your quarterback.
Is Higgins playing? I don't know.
I am actually not sure if he's playing or not. I can look it up. I don't know if it's going to change my pick one way or the other. But I'm going to go with the Bengals. I just think that they will be able to score early and then keep it ahead. And it being in LA with the Chargers doesn't mean anything for home field. So that's where I'm going. All right, Matt, bring us home.
T has logged back-to-back limited practices this week.
Oh, 13 hours ago by Sports Illustrated.
Trending
13 hours ago was little to no chance of returning. For the season. Whoa.
Whoa. What are you saying here?
Bro, Sports Illustrated right here. That's what it says.
Illustrated is out of their stinking minds. He logged a limited practice today. And they're saying right now, like, very possible that he plays this week.
Dude, I've got,
it was 2 o'clock Pacific today, 7 hours ago.
That's so crazy because 13 hours ago, T. Higgins has little to no chance of returning to the Bengals for 20. Oh, I'm reading this wrong. I'm stupid. Returning next season. I'm blind. Disregard everything I say.
Good job.
Yep.
Kids, learn how to read.
Okay.
It's important. You will make an idiot out of yourself on the internet if you learn how to read.
I deserve that.
Possibly.
All right.
No, I was looking. I looked at this game because when I saw it on the schedule, and I went, I'm really tempted to just go, hey, Harbaugh defense. This team has allowed the fewest points in the league at 118, I believe it is. Right now, the Chargers have, and They score on average, I think it's 23-ish, something like that. But they, in their last 3 games, I think it's literally almost identical. It's been 27-17, 27-10, and 26-8. But here's the
Okay.
problem. When you look at the Chargers, they beat bad teams.
Hmm.
That's what they did. They beat the Titans, they beat the Browns, and they beat the Saints in their last 3 games. They got beat by 2 by the Cardinals, you guys mentioned earlier in the show. They won a 1-score game against the Broncos, lost a 1-score game against the Chiefs, got beat by 10 by the Steelers, and then they dismantled both the Panthers and the Raiders at the beginning of the season. They've only beat bad teams. The Bengals are the best bad team we've ever seen. It is
That's true.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
The
That's
Bengals just unfortunately lose games. And I mean, by 1 again this last week, and this team still is 4-6. It's not like
Yeah.
they are out of it. That was a 1-point loss to a great Ravens team that we've already done a great job highlighting today, so I won't go into it. But they have beaten up on teams they were supposed to beat. They lost the Eagles, who have the second best defense right now in the league, by the way.
Hmm.
Throwing that out there. They are the only team outside of the NFC North in the NFC. The Eagles are to allow less than 200 points this season. Bengals do have 2 losses to the Ravens, but one was an overtime game. One was 1 point. They've beaten some teams that they needed to, and then their other awful loss is or unfortunate one is those aforementioned Chiefs by 1 point in the middle of September in week 2. They lost a 1-score game to the Commanders, you guys. Like, this is a good, bad team who was not healthy, has missed T. Higgins. You give me T. Higgins last week, they win that game against the Ravens. Like, straight up. Against that
Yeah.
secondary, dude probably had a tutty and 100. So, like, they're really good. And as good as that Chargers defense is, they are doing it against bad teams, and they're not going to be able to score. And I agree with Grant. They cannot come from behind. The Chargers can't. So I'm taking the Bengals in this game, especially if T. Higgins is playing. If he's in, this is a double-digit win.
I just looked at the standings and I'm realizing something right now. And I enjoy everything you just said, and I think it's absolutely true. The Bengals are in must-win mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If
You're
they
not
want to
wrong.
if they want to complete for the playoffs, they have to win this game against the Chargers.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're
They have
4-7. Like that's death sentence.
that's it, right? And the Chargers are 6-3. They
They
feel
go
like
six
they
and
need
four.
to win this game. 6-4. You're still looking at. I mean, look at the rest of this. You're still sitting in the playoff mode right there.
Yeah.
I think you guys are right. I think this is an absolute. Just looking at their schedule, I mean, they've got the Broncos later too. Like the Chargers and Broncos, they must win against these teams if
So
they want to make the playoffs.
does this mean you're changing?
I
You have the opportunity.
Dang. No, yeah, we're gonna go Bengals.
Okay.
This is absolute must win. I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Yeah. I didn't either, but that
The
just affirms
Bengals
my
have
pick.
to win
Yep.
this game. I'm looking at the schedule here and I'm like, they have to win this game.
Right.
Absolutely have to win.
Yeah. Cool. Well, again, like we said earlier, we will get Jameson's picks in. Make sure that is included in our thing. But other than that, we're all wrapped up.
We're wrapped up for the week, man. I want to put it out there that the NFL needs to stop hosing the West Coast. You are
Sure.
absolutely stacking 10 a.m. Here on the West Coast with these games. Like, just looking at the schedule, the TV schedule this week, the Steelers playing this game against the Ravens at 10 a.m. You had last year, unfortunately for me and Mike, or last week, sorry, unfortunately for me and Mike, Tampa Bay and the Niners playing at 10 a.m. was no fun for us. But you also had Washington playing that 10 a.m. game. I
Stupid.
get it off 10 a.m., dude. Give us the 125. Stop making us watch the Cowboys, for the love of God.
I don't
Or the
care.
Seahawks, because we're where we're at. We get a lot of Seahawks games.
I mean, it's brutal the way they've been stacking
I'm
the
not complaining
schedule.
about that.
But I gotta say, they've already shifted that Sunday night stuff and started changing some of those matchups based on win loss. And love how quick they got on it this year and were willing to do it. And so kudos to the NFL for that. But be kind to us at 10 a.m. NFL. Just want to throw that out there. Hope you guys enjoy this next week in your fantasy football world. I was going to make fun of myself today, so I will really quick. I missed somehow putting my kicker in against Mike, and he beat me by 3 points. I would have had 9 and from my kicker. And so he ends up getting the dub over me just because I didn't put my kicker in. So do a good job.
I'm the worst team in the league
with your lineups.
I'm the worst team in the league. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. and you went bye in the chopping block, right?
Oh, that was the week before. Yeah.
Oh, was that the week before? Okay.
Yeah, that was the week before. I got hosed in the it was Jonathan Taylor, Kamara, and somebody else didn't score 10 points. Any of them. Oh, and both of my wide receivers. I had 5 players score 10 points.
I might go bye in the chopping block because I had AJ Brown and Terry McLaurin, and they got collectively 10 points between the two of them.
Yeah, they did have a rough night tonight.
So
it's okay.
I might. This might be my final week.
I reminded Matt to go into the chopping block and update it, and then completely space putting in my waivers.
Oh, dude! I got all those guys. Oh,
dude, I went in there to try and get Derrick Henry. Because that's who went out this week, and I was right then when Matt sent the message like, "Hey, sorry, here the players got released." I was right there to do it, but I've also
I completely spaced it.
I gave up. I mean, if you look at the roster on that team and what I gave up, I should have demolished everybody. Like I just should have. That's what guillotine is, man. It's one bad week
brutal.
And you're screwed. Oh, I hate it.
Oh yeah, so I'm probably out this week, so I'll enjoy this last week of having it, but I'm probably done at this point.
Well, if you can be nice and let Mike stay in there, at least one of us will be left in there because Jameson got out early. So
leave me one good fantasy team. Like that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
What's your team in the chopping block?
Fantasy this year,
Mike? What's your team name?
CMC.
Oh, you run CMC. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I could be out this week too.
Watch it this week. One thing I'd really encourage you, if just from the fantasy perspective, we'll get out of here. But watch your bye week stuff this week, and pay really careful attention to a couple of the guys that are coming back from injury. Mike Evans should be back next week, but you're going to need to create space for Mike Evans coming off that IR. If you got guys that are rolling out, I know that hit a lot of people with CMC this week. People were like, oh no, what do I do? And I saw some really good players get sacrificed. So trade deadline's coming. I'm working it right now. By the way, Mike, you have an offer sitting in the A-League.
I'll look at it.
Yeah, you should look at it.
Don't trade with Matt. Don't trade with Matt.
Nobody trades with me.
Don't do it, Mike. Hold strong.
I'm the worst one in the league. I have to try and.
That's what he's doing. He's trying to fish. He's trying to fish for the bottom of the barrel.
Zay Flowers and Laporta. Zay Flowers and Laporta are in the trade, so it should be.
That sounds pretty good for me.
So, definitely work those trades. Watch your IR stuff coming off. Also, a little quick hint: Nico Collins should be a grab. If somebody's got him on IR, grab. Absolutely. That's a team trying to make sure that they win the division. And that dude's going to get all the looks with Diggs being out and Tank being all the time and not necessarily 100 week to week. You want to go get Nico. That is a trade I am also trying to make right now. But watch that stuff. Be about it this next week in week 11. It's division game for us, so we will not be speaking to each other, any of us, until after this game is over on Sunday. Or we won't be talking to Grant.
I can't really watch it, so
let's go.
No, probably not. Probably not. It probably saves me some misery.
Well, I mean, maybe. We'll see. I hope so. But anyway, be about week 11. We'll be back on the flip side to talk it through. Hopefully Jameson gets to join us next week, and we'll have an awesome time just discussing the week that was. Looking forward to that Steelers-Ravens game for sure, that Chiefs-Bills game for sure, and we'll be back here to talk about all of it. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.